to my YouTube channel, Tams PsychAdvice, where I like to understand you a little bit better, and therefore I can understand myself a little bit better and help you to understand people as well. So today I'm going to be talking about the INTJ and ENTJ and how sometimes they can start to look like other types, or they may not quite look like their own type. So let's delve into it, shall we? We shall. So sometimes a Myers-Briggs type can be impacted by what someone has gone through in life. Have they had a tough childhood? Was it impacted by things that most people don't have to go through? Now, everyone has to go through something, whether it's you're rich, you're poor, you grew up with one parent, or both parents. I mean, everybody's been through something. But let's say you're in a household that there was some instability or there was some abuse present. Maybe it didn't result in a personality disorder, but it did impact your personality type. So I want you to think about the INTJ and the ENTJ, for example, because I've seen these types where they've grown up in poverty, or there were some traumatizing situations or a lot of changes that they had to go through in their childhood, and it impacted and colors how their personality looks. So they may not just look like the typical NT temperament. There may be some other layers going on in there. So for example, someone who has been through a tougher life, if you layer that on top of an INTJ or an ENTJ, you may see a lot more warmth in that person, their ability to connect with people. They may show a sense of having a deeper compassion or connection with people. So they may waver in and out of having maybe an NF component because they're identifying with things that they went through, and it helps them, it softens them in some ways because they know what it felt like to go through the trauma or tough situations that they've gone through. And so it naturally lends them to have developed a portion of their personality that may be a little bit softer or a little bit more sensitive than you might typically see. But you may see that in an NT, and they're actually still NTs, but they start to look like other types. They may have the ability to find meaning in life. They may have the ability to establish warmer connections with people, whereas some people might look at an INTJ as maybe a little cold at times or a little bit aloof. You may see a more compassionate person with someone who has gone through some tough experiences in life. They may be more sensitive to critical remarks and feel hurt at little slights. They might be affected more emotionally if they hear a sad story or they hear something that someone has gone through. They may not be able to shake it off as easily. They might actually cry easily or easier and feel very touched by sorrow or pain in a way that maybe the typical INTJ or ENTJ may not feel. They may have a longingness for what others have, and they may be really, really supportive of friends or family in a way that other people would just kind of blow off or not be interested in or may not even stop for, but they're going to be more sensitive to someone who is in crisis. They may have more of a need to seem original, different, stand out. Maybe they were looked over as a child or deemed unimportant or not given much attention or treated as though they were less than someone else. You might have an INTJ or an ENTJ that is searching for the true meaning of who they are, the meaning for self, which we would normally associate with NFs. They may feel uncomfortable or different, which some INTJs may report feeling that way anyway, but they might feel like a bit of an outsider at times. Sometimes they can go into a very melancholy mode, or they may reach out and help people in a very dramatic way or an extensive way. They might have a lot of heart and compassion and appear to be feelers when they're really not. So this would be if you put a 4 on the ENTJ or the INTJ in the Enneagram personality type. Now, would it be rare to see this type? I think so. But someone who has gone through some crisis or tough times in their life, they're going to have a deeper compassion. They may even have a bit of an it factor, but it definitely colors a type. And that's why sometimes we can argue about, wait, this person is this type, or no, it seems like they're another type. It's because they probably have an unusual Enneagram pairing, or they've been through some other things. Now, picture these traits on an INTJ or an ENTJ. And I know some ENTJs and INTJs who have been through like really, really rough times and overcome them. These people are survivors. Not only do they have, I think that NT temperament is a strong, dominant temperament, and they are so blessed to have that, because I think that's what probably gave them the strength. But I've known some INTJs and ENTJs who have grown up in poverty, really struggle, but then they sort of rose above most people that they grew up with, or rose above that, or became survivors, or really were able to help a lot of people. But there's something that's not typical about their type, that in a certain reference point, you may think they're a different type. So what if you saw these traits? Really compassionate towards others, having strong intellect and wit. Now, of course, NTs are usually intellectual. You might think of those two types as quite serious, so you may not think of them as witty, but sometimes, for example, there's a book, I can't remember the name of it, something with poverty, but sometimes people who have grown up in poverty, they rely on wit. They understand how to be funny and hilarious, and those may not be traits that you normally associate with an INTJ or an ENTJ when you picture them, but that's a trait that they may develop. They may always be on the alert for danger, like on the lookout for it. So they might have a heightened sense of safety. Am I safe? Is everything secure? They may do that for everyone around them, make sure everybody's okay. Kind of like an SJ temperament always kind of has that guardian nature about them, where they're looking out for people. But NTs are not SJs, so they may experience criticism as an attack. They may have a great sense of humor, be thought of as loyal, super supportive friend, go in deep with somebody, like really like go the extra mile, whether it's lending money or helping somebody out or buying them food, or just doing that to a more extreme extent. They might be more vulnerable when it comes to intimate relationships. So if they're feeling anxious, they might get testy, they might get a little more agitated. But if you are experiencing an INTJ or ENTJ who is becoming anxious and testy, try not to judge them for it. Try not to go to the anxious place with them, but just try to keep your cool and reassure them, help them to relax a little bit, let them have their moments. Sometimes these types might sabotage their own success, which you would think would be unusual for an INTJ or ENTJ. They have the capability of supporting people through thick and thin to a level that most people really struggle with. Like a lot of people will have limits, or they just don't think that way. The person I've just described is a 6 on the Enneagram, so you put that on an INTJ or an ENTJ, and that's what you get. You might get somebody that's either very compliant with rules, or they can be very confrontational and do the opposite of rules because they are living in survival mode. But I think it colors their personality in a different way. I tend to really like the 4 and the 6 Enneagram. I think being an ENFJ, I look for meaning in things. I like more depth and going deeper into things and into the psyche. And I find that 4s and 6s, because they have experienced some toughness in life, some different experiences, that they have the capability of really connecting and having a compassion and a love for people that Not to say that that type doesn't have, because I believe that they do, but you might not get into that NF quality, that sort of edginess that can be layered on those people because of that. So just food for thought, something to think about when there's some confusion of a type. This can add sort of an it factor to these different types and color them a little bit differently than your standard INTJ, ENTJ type. So hopefully this sheds some light and helps someone out there. Thank you so much for watching my video, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye.